let's get started. I've been starting by having everybody say who you are, where you are, and maybe something about how we know each other.
Okay, 1 second. My name is Christopher Paul Stelling. That's who I am, where I am. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. And we know each other because of music. And we've done some shows.
Yeah. I think you've played in York, at least on 2 of our stages. You've played Cable House Presents that I run, and you've played at Sign of the Wagon a couple of times, I think. So you've been through this way, and then...
And I've played at, what was the Irish place? Well, that's in the other town.
Oh, yes, over at Tellus 360 in Lancaster.
Yeah.
Just across the river. That's the neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's nearby.
Been there a few times. Where do we play recently? Was that Lancaster or York? I played there with Sun Little recently.
That was Philadelphia. Oh, you were there. You were in at the Chameleon? Did you play at the Chameleon in Lancaster?
Yeah.
I was at a different show that night and didn't make it to that one, but I saw you guys play Free at Noon in Philly at WXPN.
Oh yeah.
And my train was delayed, so when I got off the train, I had to run, like sprint to get there. But I made it just in time, and I got to see you.
Oh, cool.
That seems like so long ago, but it was really just a couple months ago, I think.
Everything's different now.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So tell everybody who's tuned in here what you do. Tell us about how you make your living.
I'm a songwriter. That's about it. Yeah.
And you take the show on the road too, so this is impeding that.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I just lost like about 50 shows. I lost an entire tour of Europe. I just put out a new record. So it's pretty devastating, but also like, how could I, if it was an isolated incident, I would have maybe a bit of an ability to feel bad for myself in the situation. But I can't, because this is just everywhere and it's not an isolated incident. So how could I possibly feel sorry for myself? Which makes it, as difficult as this situation is, there's at least a unifying factor in and of that. Everybody's out of work. Everybody's, though I appreciate the emphasis placed on musicians in this time, and maybe that's just because of who I follow in the world the space that I occupy, but this isn't, this is bigger than that.
Sure.
Right.
It's a hell of a thing for us all to have in common, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hate to say maybe it's a good thing. It's not a good thing. It's just we needed something to slow us down and make us reflect a little bit.
Yeah, I think
everything was just moving way too fast and too intense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is fine.
It's not a good thing, but I think some good will come of it.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure.
Without much coffee.
Well, cheers to that.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us a little bit about what are you getting to listen to a lot of music as a coping mechanism, or not so much?
No, I don't listen to a lot of music. In general, I play as much music as I can, and when that's not true. I mean, I just don't know how much music the average person listens to. I get on little kicks. I've been kind of going through all of the Mance Lipscomb catalog slowly, and I watched a film on Mance Lipscomb, who was an old Texas bluesman way back. I get fascinated with little peculiar pockets of things, and I kind of hyper focus on them.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to music, I'm not really like I don't listen to all the new records, like even remotely. Though I put out records and I hope people listen to them, I don't listen to new music. That's okay. I watch films and read books, and
Is there anything in particular that you're reading now that you're enjoying, or recently?
Yeah, I finally. I mean, I've got like I read 5 or 6 books at once.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm reading a book called Blue Highways by William Least Heatmoon, which is like a kind of like a travel memoir. I'm reading a book of Aboriginal and Far East poetry. I'm reading a book of short stories, Paul Bowles short stories. Pretty, just as I read whatever. I've got a lot of books from my life. And this has been a time to kind of like revisit the books of my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Books that I've read and books that I intended to read from a new perspective. I mean, I'm kind of fascinated that I can reapproach things from my youth with a completely new perspective. We just watched that movie, The Squid and the Whale, last night. Do you remember this movie?
No.
It was a Noah Baumbach film with Jeff Daniels and Laura Linney.
Hmm.
Anyway, it's just interesting. I probably watched it when it came out like 15 years ago. And yeah, I watched it 15 years. I have completely different perspective on it. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I guess music is that way too. But maybe music's... I don't have as visceral of a reaction.
I think with music, I tend more to associate it with certain times in my life.
Yeah.
If I go back and reread books from a different perspective, that's a different thing. Like a couple years ago, reread a whole bunch of Steinbeck that I loved as a kid, and it was completely new to me to reread it as an adult.
What Steinbeck?
Mm-hmm. East of Eden, I reread. What else? Some of the shorter ones. The ones you read in high school or whatever.
Sure.
All those on the shelf. Grapes of Wrath, I reread.
Cool. Yeah.
Big Steinbeck fan.
Good. Yeah. I like to try to make excursions into films and literature and hopefully bring something back to music. Because music's just kind of what I live in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to, I should listen to more new music probably, but I just can't seem to find an interest in it.
Yeah, well, we're all into different things,
Yeah.
And I'm way into your new record. I don't have it on vinyl. What do I have of yours on vinyl here? Let's see. My tripod is on my heavy rotation shelf. I've got this one. This is an older one. False Cities.
Oh, I like that record.
I think I have Itinerant Areas on CD. So
here, I'll give you this copy. You can have this one. This is my new record.
Reach out and grab it.
There you go.
It's really great, though.
Thank you.
It's been out in the world now for how many months?
I don't know.
What is time? Who knows?
It came out on February 7th.
There we go. Getting some comments in here that people that are listening in really like that record.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's just been a little somewhat. I make records so I can tour. So, given the situation, it's a little. I'm in a little bit of shock I should be in like Sweden or Germany or something right now. So, um, and I enjoy going to Europe. Probably that's the reason I started playing music for people, with the hope that I would be able to travel to Europe, because I had never been. So I thought maybe if I made some records, I'd be able to find a way to get to Europe. So losing that tour, I mean, it would have been my 13th tour of Europe. So I'm really lucky. I've been quite a few times. But I always want to go again. And this was going to be a special one. Yeah. But the record alone, I'm proud of it. I just worry that when this thing kind of I worry that when this is over, I won't be able to hit the road again with the sort of enthusiasm of having a brand new record. Because that's part of it. Is like when everything's happening, when the record comes out and everything's happening at once, it's, you know, you hope to have some momentum. But yeah.
Well, on the other hand, people will have been sitting with your record for longer, and more people will sing along.
Yeah, that's the positive. That's the positive side of it. And I hope to have something. Not sure what I'm working. I hope to have something new to accompany it when it. When do you think this is going to be over?
No idea. I know that, you know, with Cable House, two people that we had on our schedule, David Wax Museum and Scrap-O-Matic, which is Mike Madison's band from, singer from Tedeschi Trucks Band. They have rescheduled their tours, and that was a whole like scrambling to reroute it and whatever. But you know, it makes me nervous because those shows are now rescheduled for August and November. I hope that's far enough out, but you know,
right.
I feel bad for the artists and I feel bad for the booking agents because we don't know what the end it looks like.
Yeah, we rescheduled. But I had already booked all of the summer and all of the fall into next year. So everything that was rescheduled is rescheduling for next year. Yeah. Which is great. I think right now I had some dates in May and I think those are gone. And I had some, I think the summer is probably gone. And that's okay. Like, I hope everybody just kind of like fills their minds and finds some inspiration and makes some music. Like, I don't know.
I think
I worry for the venues.
Me too. Me too. I'm not so worried about us because we're not a traditional venue. We're a pop-up and we rent our space. But traditional venues, yeah.
From the city, right?
What's up?
You rent your space from the city, right?
From Central Market House. Yeah, they're their own entity. But it's interesting, you know, I talked the first week that I was doing these chats, I talked to Zach Schmidt, and then last week I talked to the Minks in Nashville, and we talked about how the tornado hit right before this. And then the last talk I did an hour ago was with Anthony from Malography. He's a photographer. And
I love Anthony. Yeah, cool.
Isn't he wonderful? So we were talking about the ballroom thieves and how this all went down right after they were in an accident with their van and stuck in a blizzard with like 140 car pileup or whatever. And then with you, your booking agent, Brad at Mongrel, is the last time I talked to him, I think the wildfires were hitting them. So he was calling because he couldn't work from the office and couldn't email. There's so much going on this last, I'll say year, but way less than that, that everybody's dealing with. I mean, I think when to
We're
your
also a
point,
lot more we're also dealing with the repercussions of being a lot more connected and a lot more tuned in than we used to be.
that's true.
Just like, here's some perspective. Uh, Chernobyl and the Challenger explosion happened within months of each other. like 19, I mean, that was 1986, but I mean,
Yeah.
like, I guess the only reason I bring this up is that, like, difficult things happen consecutively, forever and always.
Sure.
And it always seems like this moment is especially unique,
Because we're in the thick of it.
because we're in it.
Yeah.
But I hear you. Like, yeah, everybody's been going through it, and I mean, everything is compounded by the fact that, like, we're just dealing with rampant idiocracy around every turn.
Yes.
So for a couple, how many years now? For years now, 3 years almost. Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's hard. People will take live music for granted no longer. You know, when we get back to I mean, I don't know about you lately. Maybe your attendance is always good, but it just seemed like there was a general fatigue in the beginning of 2020. Getting people out to shows and getting people motivated a little bit. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I've just been at this for so long I've exhausted my base. But you know, I think people's interest in live music has been renewed.
I agree. I think people are going to be really hungry for it when we can get together again, whatever that looks like, and whatever process we have to go through to get there.
Yeah. What are your plans coming out of this? I mean, we're not gonna know. What does reemergence look like in a live music world?
You know, right now my anchor is Newport, and it remains to be seen whether it'll be able to happen, but it's 121 days from now. That's not a lot of time given the circumstances. But I know with the weight of Newport, and certainly you know this, you have your own history with Newport. I think it's only if we can get together, then that's going to be so much more gravity for me, so much more of a religious experience. And if it doesn't happen, then probably my reemergence into it is going to be hosting my own shows later in the summer, or in the fall, or whenever we can start back up.
Yeah, part of me selfishly wants to see that solidarity of the high water mark of kind of taking the whole year.
Yeah.
But I would hate to see. Do you know what I mean by that? Like it's been just so serious for so many people to have to take this time to step back from our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Live music aside, everybody really. So I'd like to think. I kind of wish the internet had gone out too. I mean that in the nicest way possible. You know, because it is such a reflective time. I worry everybody's, like, instead of like branching out, I worry everybody's kind of turning into kind of what we're doing. Not you and I. You know what I mean?
I do.
Like obsessively reading the news.
Coin. Yeah.
Which is kind of just why I've been trying to read books and watch movies and play with the animals a little bit.
I've been trying for at least a while each day to put my phone in another room. Hello.
Yeah. I got a little gun safe, like one of these little lock boxes, and I put my phone in there when I need to get some work done.
It's a great idea.
Yeah. That way I at least have to put the key in and turn the key. Otherwise, it just ends up back in my hand, and I'm like, how did I?
Yeah, it's
What is
funny,
everybody
especially during
else?
this time.
What has everybody else been thinking about that you've been talking to? What are some of the themes?
Um, some people have been making music. Some people have been saying that there's a lot of pressure to be making the most of this time and creating, and that's making it so they can't create, or
Really?
that they were already struggling, and now that this happened, uh, this has sort of launched them into a deeper depression. It's been a wide spectrum of how it's affecting people.
Mm.
Um, and some themes have come out, like people that say they are listening to music to cope are mostly listening to happier, more upbeat stuff. I find that I'm doing that too, which is really out of character for me. I've got a tattoo that says "Death by Sad Songs." I just want to be drowned in the saddest, darkest music all the time.
Yeah.
But I've
I
been
mean,
having dance parties instead lately. So
I mean, I identify that from a creative perspective. I mean, I always made darker records, and this record is not that, you know? And maybe that just has something to do with when it gets really dark, I just tend to make happier music.
mm,
Definitely.
that's good news for all of us.
Yeah, I think that my more recent record is a bit more upbeat. Um, I haven't had it in me to write sad or really angry songs lately. I can get down with that.
Mm.
Positive. Uh, yeah, there's just enough dark going on.
It really is. So what are you doing to pass the time since you get to be home? You're reading a lot. What else? I watched a live stream that you and Julia did.
Oh yeah, I've done a couple of those. I did two of those, and those were great. You know, at first I was like, um, I feed off interacting with an audience, so it's really awkward to be uh, not to know that there's people, you know, just to not get anything. It's a very awkward experience, but so yeah, I did a couple of those. They went really nicely. People were very generous. And I was pretty humbled and just taken aback by just how uh, much it seemingly meant to people to be able to see some of these live streams and interact with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people wrote me some really nice emails and sent me some really nice notes. So that was really cool. I guess it just kind of gave them a sense of like the immediacy of the situation and being kind of directly having it acknowledged, you know.
Yeah.
I always kind of try to make a point when I'm singing songs and playing shows to kind of at least interact with what's going on in the world at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Almost like in a Will Rogers sort of monologue-y sort of way. I listen to the news. I try to just engage with the world around me because I just think that it brings more, especially as you start weaving songs in some sort of like tapestry of an evening.
Mm-hmm.
It can kind of become like some sort of performance art where it has a dialogue. Does that like a playlist, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Like the way that like seemingly unrelated songs can fit together through some sort of narrative. So yeah, that's how I feel about live concerts. I did two. I don't know if we'll see if I do more. Yeah, reading, walking. I think we can still walk. We've been walking the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Julia's planting a garden, and I'm working on a record. I'm I've got a record here of like 15 songs, and I'm just kind of recording them and just kind of, I guess you'd say, making demos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's great.
For next year, because I mean, this most recent record took 2 years because I was working with a producer, and because it, you know what I mean. So I had to get that together. Yeah. One day at a time. I mean, the days are going by really fast, and some days I haven't been doing anything at all. And you know, there was this really beautiful article. I think it was in the New York Times or the New Yorker or New York Magazine, something like this, about, like, you know, don't put pressure on yourself if you don't feel. I've never put pressure on myself, like, so much to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, every once in a while I have to, like, actually sit down and do all the emails.
Right.
So, I mean, the strangest thing is just taking in all the news, feeling like we have this obligation to be completely engaged in everything that goes on, but also knowing that you could read the news like for 1 hour every Sunday and be just as caught up.
And catch up, yeah.
Right. And not have to, I mean, maybe you wouldn't be able to read all the long think pieces.
I don't think you'd be any worse off for not reading them, though.
I mean, I support good journalism, so I want to read it. But I think it's, I'm a bit inundated with information at the moment.
Yeah. I read something the other day. I don't remember whose account it was on. I think it was an Instagram post. It said something about you're not working from home right now. You are stuck at home during a global pandemic trying to also work.
That's a better mindset.
I thought that was a good way to look at it, a good shift for me anyway.
Meaning that given the circumstances, you shouldn't be expecting yourself to do as much.
Yeah, that you're not necessarily going to have the same output, and there's going to be days that there's no output, and that's okay. You know?
Right.
You feel the way you feel, and you need to sit with it sometimes. Before we wrap up, I would like to ask you, what is, number one, where can people find more information about you? And number two, what's the best way that we can be supportive of you and the things you care about right now?
You can look at the internet, Facebook and Instagram, and well, my website is a really good resource. Though my website is a really good resource, I don't really think about websites too much. But man, it's all there. I'm always really impressed and surprised to realize that all of my stuff is on my website.
It's a good landing spot.
Yeah. Now you don't have to worry. Don't worry about me. I mean, I hope people listen to the record. You know, that's really great. I guess something I'm worried about is after just all the time and resources and energy, and it's like, I don't know, I just kind of decided a little while ago that there's not much staying power for an album in 2020, you know? And so the alternative to that, sorry, I went to get some coffee.
That's perfectly fine.
The alternative to there not being a lot of staying power for anything is to tour, you know? Even like even like music videos, you spend all this time and resources to make like some music video or to make like what we call content, and it has a couple of days and it goes away. And so the way to really engage is to go out on the road, and have these little unique experiences every night.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that like live stream culture has concerned me with a bit is like, I could go out. Oh, thank you.
I agree, Tim, but that's okay. Go ahead.
There's this book. This is one of the weirdest books I've ever read. It's called Oh What a Blow That Phantom Gave Me, right? And
Okay.
it's a really good, like, this guy Edmund Carpenter. I read it when I was like a kid. I mean, I was like 18, right? And if you'll notice, there's two fertility statues here and here. Okay? Now, this is when anthropologists first made contact with a tribe in New Guinea. And this is 15 years later. What is remarkable about this one?
Sure looks like Mickey Mouse to me.
Sure does. That's the polluting of culture.
Huh.
Through the invasion, invasive species of a predominant media-based culture.
Mm-hmm.
And it really made me think. They have these. There's this story in it about how in the very beginning, all the young people would gather to hear the stories of the older people, right? The elders.
Mm-hmm.
And then at one point they introduced a tape recorder. And as soon as they introduced the tape recorder, the younger generations of the children of the tribe stopped having any interest in listening to the stories told by the elders. They stopped coming to the meetings because they said, well, why should we do that? We have it on tape. So I guess what I mean is, like, though I really like the live stream thing, it's like I can go out and play a unique show every night for 100 nights. But when I start filming it and recording it, it's like, is there really a point of doing more than one? Because it's essentially the same show, but it's in a different place. So, I've always
That's
been
a really good point.
Right.
I mean, I think that's what I love about live music. You go to a show, and for that 2 hours or whatever, you all have that exact same experience in common. Everybody in that room, but nobody outside of that room.
This is my point. And this is maybe why performers get a little aggravated with
don't get me
phone
started.
because it's starting to seem like there's two types of people. There's the type of people that stay home because they're afraid they're going to miss something on the internet, and then there's the type of people that bring the internet with them. So maybe everyone will be so over-interneted through this process that the idea of going out into the world and interacting will be reborn in people's minds.
We can hope. We can certainly hope. That would be a nice byproduct of this.
Yeah, I can't wait to get together with people,
Me too.
And I haven't thought about this book in a long time, but I knew it was sitting there. It's really a good book.
And that was only 15 years apart, those two images that you showed.
Yeah, something like that.
Unbelievable.
It's a book about like the impact that sort of, I guess they would call it contact, like first contact.
Yeah.
It's a study of like the way that these very complex cultures would change after contact with Europeans.
Western, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I've always tried to maintain this idea that music is this special ceremonial sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which is why I've always, even though I make records, I've had a hard time. I have a hard time with them because records are like taxidermy to me.
Wow. That's an interesting way to put it, but for me, they sustain me in between those live.
Absolutely.
Like the holdover, So I get it. Going to a show is church for me.
Yeah, I guess I kind of like it that, like to me, I make records so I can go out and perform. And there's some people that make records and don't really, would rather their music live in that controlled environment. And whereas the recording studio presents way too many options for me to feel comfortable. So if anything, I had a dream last night that I was on a bill at doing a show with probably the top 10 most awkward relationships. Like a lot of the people on the bill were not even musicians, but they were just like, it was probably like the top 5 people in my life who I'd never want to have to interact. I mean, I don't have any enemies, or I hold no animosity towards anybody, but like, imagine like if you were to walk into a room, the most awkward people that you could have to interact with because of, say, past relationships or whatever, right? They were all on the bill.
Oof.
Right? Yeah. And not only was I playing last, but it was a Monday, and there were 5 people on the bill, which meant I wouldn't even go on till midnight. And as you know, like nobody wants to play last on a Monday,
Sure. Sure.
And so a lot of my dreams and a lot of the things I've been contemplating have a lot to do with sort of reigniting my zeal and appreciation of the life that we were living, because it's not going to be the same for a while.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think it'll be the same even when we're able to gather again. I think we're headed into something different, at least for a while. And I don't know what that'll look like. So it's fascinating.
Well, are you feeling okay? Are you depressed?
Not so much. I am a true extrovert. So
Good.
I have a lot of people checking in on me going, how are you doing sitting there by yourself? And I'm fine, because the upside to all these ways to communicate is that I haven't been alone. I have FaceTime calls with my son every day and chats like this on Sundays. And, it's fine. It's been peaceful to be home and spending time with my cats,
It's been peaceful, right?
Yeah.
I
went from having a calendar that had every single block for the whole month of March full to everything crossed out in red pen. Not a thing, still standing. And that's a huge shift for me, but I think it's good ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, I was waking up on the road, I wouldn't say filled with dread, because it's really my favorite thing in the whole world, but I was just like looking at my calendar and I was like, I mean, the Europe tour was going to start and I had shows every day for the first like 25 days and then only 2 days off for the second half. So I was like, how am I going to make it through this thing? I guess I don't have to worry about that anymore. Now I'm like, how am I going to make it through this thing? And I'll send you some songs I'm working on. I'm just going to write some stuff. It's a neat perspective to write from and be creative from, to have everything turned upside down.
Yeah.
I keep saying,
Yeah.
like, taking the things I took for granted seems like a theme.
Yep.
I mean,
sure.
like, yeah, I mean, how many of us were like, fuck, I gotta go to work?
But they have
What happened
internet
to
at work. I would kill to have internet. I'm trying to do all this work of canceling all these events and rescheduling them, and I don't have internet. I have this slow ass hotspot on my phone, and it's making me feel like, oh, remember in like 1995 when I had to wait 3 minutes for a page to load? I definitely took internet for granted.
Oh man. Yeah, the age of dial-up.
Yeah. That's what it feels like all over again, except I wasn't frustrated by it back then because it was all new and that was the only way we knew how to experience it. It wasn't fast.
Well, I miss you, and I hope that we can get a show on the books.
I hope so too.
At some point in the new year, probably in the new year.
I hope so too. We will look forward to seeing you very much. I appreciate you taking the time today to talk to me.
Oh, this is great.
Anybody who's listening, I'm doing these on the hour for the rest of the day. Next up at 2 o'clock Eastern is Johnny Fritz.
Okay.
And then 2 people in Texas, Daniel Markham, and then Ellie Perry, who's down at the Mexican border right now in her RV that she lives in full time. And then at 5 o'clock, back up to the Northeast with Jesse and Seamus from Smith and Whedon. So full day. It's been really nice having these chats.
Yeah, if there's anything that I can participate in or be involved in to help your booking efforts or community, if you do any sort of anything to raise awareness or funds, let me know.
Thank you very much. We do have our community every year does a community-wide day of like online day of giving. That's coming up May 1st, and so because it's online, we won't have the big party going on and everything like that. We won't be doing the in-person portions of it, but I think it's going to be more important to everyone than it ever has been before. We have over 1,200 nonprofits in York. A little over 300 of those participate in this, and Cable House is one of them. So I'll have information about that for everybody who follows Cable House on social media. But yeah, that's what I'll be spending my time doing while I wait for all those pages to load over the next few weeks.
Awesome. Well, don't be a stranger, okay?
Same here. Same to you. Thanks so much.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.